Whether you love it or hate it, you know that iconic blue box when you see it on the store shelf. Chances are you've eaten it more times than you can count. What's not to love? That leaves us with one question: how is this magical macaroni and cheese made? When Kraft Mac Cheese made its debut around World War II, it was an instant hit. But before this revolutionary boxed meal came an even bigger innovation from J.L. Kraft, the man behind the Kraft Foods empire. In 1916, Kraft was awarded the first patent ever for creating processed cheese, which is basically a method for making a cheese product that is shelf-stable and won't spoil quickly. We won't get into the chemistry of it all, but it is safe to say that the processed cheese fundamentally changed the ways we eat. After Kraft's processed cheese became a hit, the company wanted to expand to feed the masses. Processed cheese led to the invention of powdered cheese, and eventually the boxed mac and cheese dinner was born. This was right around the Great Depression and World War II, so the cheap, easy, and yet elevated meal became a staple in many American households.
Hal's Book Club. It must be hard to discuss literature with your mouth full of my Kraft Mac and Cheese.
As counterintuitive as it may seem, the bright orange processed cheese powder that brings Kraft macaroni and cheese to life actually begins more like the cheese sauce it will become. And it all starts with real cheese. This cheese sauce gets a small amount of sodium phosphate added to it, which is the magic ingredient that helps bind the oil and water in cheese so that it stays smooth and creamy when it melts. At this point, the cheese is resembling something more like the Velveeta shells and cheese sauce we know and love. So how does it go from this to powder? The final step in going from cheese to cheese powder involves a process far older than Kraft macaroni and cheese itself: food dehydration. The natural version of the process has been used by indigenous Americans and some Eastern cultures for generations. Food dehydration dates back to the late 18th century. The main function of dehydrating food, either naturally using heat or more modern chemical processes, is to make it essentially non-perishable. Today, it's so common that you can buy food dehydrators on Amazon for less than $45, and that's basically what Kraft uses, only smaller. Kraft macaroni and cheese can be identified in part by the distinct yellowish-orange color of its processed product. For a long time, that signature color came from the addition of synthetic food dyes, but that is not the case anymore. In 2015, thanks to growing consumer demand for more natural foods, Kraft announced that it was changing up the way it makes its famous macaroni and cheese. Going forward, the company eliminated the use of all artificial colors, flavors, and preservatives in its whole line of products, including the boxed mac and cheese. When Kraft removed these synthetic dyes from its boxed mac and cheese, it had to add something in its place to make sure the product still looked and tasted the same for consumers. Today, Kraft macaroni and cheese is made with a blend of spices that help achieve that goal. They include bright red paprika, which is infused into the noodles as well as used in the cheese sauce, rich yellow turmeric, which contains a host of health benefits in addition to the perfect mac and cheese hue, is also included. According to Eater, Kraft massaged their new mac and cheese formula for over 3 years before they got it just right. And while there were a small number of mac and cheese lovers who petitioned Kraft to go back to their original recipe, most people embraced the changes. While no one is trying to claim that Kraft macaroni and cheese is a good substitute for a salad, the blue box is actually full of more nutrients than you might think. One box of Kraft mac and cheese contains about 3 servings, and each serving contains a whopping 9 grams of protein. On top of that, Kraft mac and cheese is a great source of calcium and iron, with 10% of your recommended daily value of each in a serving. And having a little mac and cheese with kids won't be a diet breaker either. There are just 3 grams of fat per serving and no trans fats. Heck, have the whole box without feeling guilty. The only kicker is the sodium. With 570 milligrams in each serving, you're looking at almost a quarter of your daily recommended intake right there.
Tell me about Mac's famous mac and cheese.
We know that Kraft macaroni and cheese does in fact contain real cheese, but it's a processed powdered cheese, so it's worth clarifying what that means for allergies and dietary restrictions. First of all, this may be surprising, but Kraft mac and cheese is not technically considered vegetarian. That's because, per a FAQ on Kraft's corporate website, during the process of converting milk into cheese, enzymes from animal sources are used. So, those who choose not to consume animal products should be aware of this when deciding whether they want to eat this mac and cheese. Additionally, anyone with intolerance to gluten may need to evaluate if they can eat Kraft mac and cheese. On the box's ingredients list, it clearly states that the product contains wheat and milk. There is some good news for some. Kraft does offer a gluten-free version of its boxed mac and cheese. What started out as a single box of macaroni and cheese has grown into an empire. Kraft has expanded way beyond its original recipe and now offers dozens of Kraft Mac and Cheese products in a variety of flavors from 3 cheese to white cheddar. Kraft relies on a variety of its patented cheese powders to create these flavors, and Kraft keeps coming up with more. The company is always trying out new limited edition flavors. One of their most recent concoctions is Candy Kraft Mac and Cheese. If you're not sure how you feel about it, you're not alone. Let's just say some work out better than others. Check out one of our newest videos right here. Plus, even more mashed videos about your favorite foods are coming soon. Subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you don't miss a single one.